Saturdays at Kilroy's are a blast. We always have an interesting time in here. Today we've got Wounded Warrior Project. They come in one Saturday every month, and it's a blast having them in here. They do smithing and casting and welding, and some of the best people you'll ever meet.
So Saturdays are probably one of our busiest days here. Frequently we have either Wounded Warrior Project or River Deep Foundation in here. So military groups, ton of fun when they come in. It's always a blast.
Saturdays are the busiest but the most fun days that we have here. Wow. Yeah. Always get to meet new people. We've got a ton of different classes going on at the same time. And for today, we're making hammers.
Saturdays here are crazy. We usually have a mini knife class on top of another special class like hammers, Bowie knife, something that follows in from the week. And today we've got Wounded Warrior Project. Usually we get a pretty good crowd, about 10 to 20 people for those. So I'm pretty tired.
Saturday is the most fun day of the week. Everyone's doing something, everyone's hopping. Everyone's doing something a little different.
In addition to that, we'll usually have some other classes going on as well. So anything from hammer class, which is actually what we did today, to mini knife, blacksmithing all levels, just about anything.
It's crazy meeting all the people that come through here. Everybody has a life story, so it's just figuring out what that is and learning more about them.
Today is Family Day at Kilroy's Workshop with Wounded Warrior Project. So we've got dads and daughters, we've got wives and husbands, we've got sisters in here together as well. And so it's just really neat to see them come together and bond over blacksmithing and welding and stuff. So it's just a good time.
My name's Glenn Cooper. I'm a retired 25-year Army veteran. I'm here making a knife out of a piece of shrapnel that blew up my truck in 2006 in Iraq. We were out on a mission, we were on our way back, and we had to cross a section of dirt, and an IED was to our right, and we were looking left. The IED went off, knocked me out, disabled my truck, took out the engine. No one in the vehicle was hurt by the shrapnel, but there was a bunch left in the engine compartment and in the trunk area. When we were cleaning the vehicle out to fix it, we got the pieces of shrapnel out, and I brought one home with me. And about 6 months ago, I talked to Ron about possibly making a knife, and he will show me how to make a knife. So I'm here making a knife. So there's ball bearings in here, and shrapnel, and 1095 steel powder. If I have just a piece of metal when I'm gone and the family's cleaning up my stuff or anything, and they found a piece of metal, they're just going to throw it away. Well, if they have a knife that Dad made from the metal, they would want to keep that more than the piece of metal. So it'll be a utility knife and something I can use. Well, I have 4 kids right now, 2 grandkids. A couple of them like to hunt and fish and do outdoor stuff, so they'll probably want the knife. It'll just go down to them as long as they want to keep it, or they can give it away. It's up to them. Got to do the handle, which I'm going to make out of ironwood, which is this right here. And then basically just finish and polish and it'll be done. It'll look something like that.
A lot of space. We got it kind of messed up right now, but we got a lot of workspace, that's for sure. We're doing a lot of things here. Well, we're going to be making copper jewelry. We're going to be making glass jewelry, and probably do some silver, and as well as a lot of these different rings, titanium rings. Well, it's pretty complex. We use a lot of stones, and this is glow powder. That ring glows in the dark. And super glue. A lot of super glue. Let me grind it down.
So Al is a really good friend of the shop. He's actually setting up jewelry making and some glass forming and even engraving, gloss wax casting, stuff like that too. And so we're setting up some special classes. He's going to be one of our master instructors for that. We'll advertise those things out, and you can register for those things online too.
Yeah, I just took up jewelry making a couple, 3 years ago. So that's kind of it. I've been a wood carver for years, and an artist. I paint oils and watercolors and that type of thing. And so that's pretty much it. Yeah, I guess I'm probably the oldest one around here. Me and Miss Fluffy.
About almost 5 years ago now, Justin Martinez contacted us when we were just a small thing out in an airplane hangar with a porta potty and 1,200 square feet. And he started coming in, and we had folks come in for even woodworking back then, and we did a lot of blacksmithing and welding too. It's been an honor to actually have them come into the shop and to get to know so many people. We've developed some really great relationships out of it, and a lot of long-time smiths who work at Kilroy's work out of here. Started with Wounded Warrior Project, so good relationships.
My name is Samantha. I'm here doing blacksmithing with Wounded Warrior Project. I'm a 90% disabled veteran through the VA, and I served in the Army for 5.5 years. Founded through Wounded Warrior Project, they posted it in the post that they were coming out here to do an event. And I've come out here a few different times with them, and I've come to really like the staff here. So I always sign up for it when it's available. Wounded Warrior Project is very involved in our community here. They have projects or events all the time around here in Colorado Springs. This is a very common one that they do. They do the welding, they do casting, and they do blacksmithing. So they're very involved. He's walking me through it step by step, which is also really nice because then you don't get confused or overwhelmed. So right now we're just building the handle. Yeah?
Yep. Okay, try it again.
What is the trick?
Hit the target with the point.
I know, but I feel like I'm not hitting it hard enough.
Yeah, don't throw it hard. Nice and light.
Why does it work for you?
Nice and light. Yay! As far as I'm concerned, that's the first take.
This my father brought back. It's called a kukri, and it had some damage, and I want them to clean it up for me. But the Gurkhas, this is their knife, you might say, kind of like Bowie and his Bowie knife. And so I don't know exactly when my father got it, probably around 1944, somewhere like that. And that was one of his things he brought back. The Gurkhas had quite a reputation, and they were part of the British Army, and they're not afraid of death, and you know, known as fierce warriors, shall we say. So they were men of honor, known for keeping their word. So normally, one of the things that people, if they know anything about Gurkhas at all, if this knife is out like this, it has to draw blood. But like I tell people, I'm not a Gurkha, you're not a Gurkha, I don't enforce that rule. My father went in the military prior to the war. He actually joined the Army Air Corps at the time in July of 1940, and was discharged July of 45. I know everybody's heard about the 100 mission thing with the bombers over Europe, but he wasn't in Europe, so he had to fly 250 missions. And started out in North Africa, and then went to Sicily, Italy, and then Burma, China. So typical of a lot of warriors, my father growing up, I never heard much about the war or anything. That's why I don't probably know as much about this knife as I should. I wanted the knife had got damaged at my parents' house, so I had seen the shop here had been on Forged in Fire, and I thought, well, obviously this guy's a quality bladesmith, and I should be able to bring it in here and see if they can do something to help me out. And they were so excited to see it. That's, I guess, why I'm on this film, because you know, it's the real deal. It's not a replica. It's a honest to goodness Gurkha knife.
So a lot of what we do, we've got restorations like Gary's where we're actually taking care of family heirlooms, something that's very, very meaningful and emotional for him when he's talking about his dad. He sees that object and he remembers things with his dad. We've got cool things here happening here too, in that we've got family members coming in and making things that will then be passed on to their descendants as well. And so it's a way to keep that cycle going. That's the cool thing about makers in the maker community, is there's just more meaning to stuff that you make, even if it's not quite the same level as something that you might buy in the store. But boy, there's a whole lot of heart to it. With Kilroy's, when I started with kids, we needed to figure out a way to really kind of separate out the newbies from the kids who had been here for a long time, and so we set up an apprentice program for that. I didn't want to do a knighting ceremony, but I wanted to do something similar, so we used a tool called a flatter for blacksmiths, and so I started doing that. We'd give a certificate and then flatter them as an apprentice blacksmith. You were going to be an apprentice one blacksmith, okay? So have you ever seen like a knighting ceremony where they do a sword and make somebody a knight? Well, I'm not a king, and you're not a soldier, right? You're a blacksmith now. And this says Blacksmith Apprentice 1. Okay? So I'm going to actually do something a little different. I'm going to use a flatter. It's a tool that blacksmiths use, okay? And it's a flattering ceremony. So I'm going to flatter you as an apprentice blacksmith, okay? All right, come on over here. It's official. You are now an apprentice blacksmith. Good job. That's awesome. Just on a raw.
I mean, when I said it's kind of funny, I literally held the biggest sledgehammer, and then like when we were starting to get to the end, there's nothing but sledgehammers, and there's like the littlest one, it was heavy, but it was not, and the biggest one, it was not too heavy.
Yeah.
And then when we were working on it, that knife, at first I was like, oh, this is so boring, but it was really fun.
That's really fun. Good. So everybody got a kick out of that, and it's a good mark of passage, or a rite of passage that we do. Then once they move from Apprentice 1 to Apprentice 2, we award that based on maturity and mastery of core skills in smithing, and that means a lot to them. Now, a lot of these kids go home and they hang that up on the wall, and it's become part of their identity, and they have proof of that. They've got evidence of that. They successfully completed those steps in there. And then we've got journeyman and master levels beyond that as well, and so it's that Apprentice 1, Apprentice 2, journeyman, and master. And it's been a good thing for the kids. So we just made some changes. We're always making changes at Kilroy's, and what we're going to be doing here, we actually just deconstructed this section, which was like hand tools and woodworking and things like that for doing handles for knives and so on. We're actually making an extension of the lobby and turning this into retail space. But when you walk in here, what we're going to do is we're going to borrow some forms that they had at the mining museum to make like concrete or plaster forms to make it look like the interior of a cave or a mine shaft. And so you'll walk into this space, it'll look really cool. We do theater set designs. We're going to treat this like a theater set and do it up really, really nice. It'll be fun.
Extending our lobby a little bit, getting a little crowded with how much we've grown, so we're framing out a new area here right now, and making really good progress on it. We've only been on it for about 3.5 hours, and we're almost done, at least with the framing.
Holding a piece of wood, very steady. Hard work.
So everybody's got a story. We just don't necessarily know what it is. You meet people in the market, in the supermarket, they've got a story behind them. And here, we actually get to know some of those folks. So we got Gary who came in. His dad served in World War II, and he's got this knife. He just brought it in for a knife. He stayed because of community. And so we got to know him, got to know his story. He actually came back in here specifically today to share that story with you, as well as the folks from Wounded Warrior Project. We've got Glenn, who came in here with some shrapnel. He'd been coming in here probably 3 or 4 times, and he brought that shrapnel in and said, can we do something with this? And we went ahead and tossed that in the canister, and we made some knife blanks out of it, and now he's forging the knives, and we got to work with him through that process. Again, that's part of his life. It's very, very meaningful to him. It's his alive day. That's the day that shrapnel almost took him. And so it's so meaningful to him, which then also translates into meaningful for us. And so it's really great to share that with folks. So for the past 3.5 years, we've been making constant improvements, actually for the last 8 years. This latest iteration, we're going to expand the lobby. This is coming out here. We're going to have a retail space, a general store. We're going to be selling Damascus, handle material, all kinds of steel and stuff like that for people who come in here to the shop. So it just gives them a place where they can come locally, get their hands on the material instead of ordering it all online. Buy local if you can. And a lot of my students and staff members are going to be actually making product that is sold in the store here too. So it gives them great exposure. We'll also be taking in very select few people to do commission pieces in here, like Matt Waters from his knife business that he's got running. So this is really part of the bigger picture of what we've got for KILROY'S Workshop and the expansion plans we've got. It's just going to keep on growing, keep on getting bigger and better for the community here. So the more people we can draw in, the better it's going to be. I got to get going. I got steel in the forge.